Hello and welcome to the 50 Cent Tour of Friday, July 26, 2013. Congratulations on making it through the week. Please find a seat on the Liberty Bus and we will begin our tour. Obama DHS planned to kill peaceful protesters in sniper attacks. This is just a mind blower. I don't think I will even comment on it because that phrase speaks for itself, and to be honest, I haven't quite reconciled in my mind that that could happen, but I do believe that it did. And I just want to there's so much news on InfoWars today, and I don't want to go through it all, but virtually all of it is probably very significant and is worth a look. But at the same time, there is this issue sometimes of becoming overwhelmed by just the amount of information and how terrible much of it is. 7 ways to rekindle the quest for truth. And this article has some ideas mostly for limiting your exposure to information so that you don't become overwhelmed by it. Things like cutting back on your email subscriptions, only following certain websites, just to prevent being overwhelmed. But I really like the last suggestion here. That is, be discerning as you read. Is this credible? Who wrote it? Was the goal to generate fear so that you will buy stuff? I think that some of the, I've mentioned at other times just the phrase fear porn. Some of that is to get people to buy stuff. Some of it is, I think, disinfo to threaten us and to make us feel weak and helpless and give up and retreat back into unreality and, watching TV and pretending, putting our heads in the sand like ostriches. So I think it is very important to be discerning as you read. Is this credible? Who wrote it? Was the goal to generate fear? And some blogs that I really like every once in a while will have an article about a people group or something that just raises a caution flag. And I think there's a lot of intentional disinfo out there and a lot of people who are trying to manipulate those of us who are seeking truth and get us to function. And just in rekindling the quest for truth, sometimes it helps to go back to the basics, especially in talking to people who aren't really familiar with some of these issues. And by the basics, I mean things like the JFK assassination. If you go back far enough in history, there's a point where most people will agree that yes, there was a conspiracy here. Yes, the government covered up the truth, and most people agree that there was funny business with the JFK assassination. And if we can just, even in our own minds, when we start to feel overwhelmed, confused, whatever, go back to some of those times. And here's one that's not quite as far in the past as JFK, but proof the Pentagon and TWA Flight 800 struck by missiles. And there are videos here, and just understanding more about what happened on 9/11 is very important, I believe. And if you just take the pulse of our nation by going back and watching movies. A lot of the movies that were produced before 9/11 just kind of had this happy happy-go-lucky, kind of innocent, light-hearted feel, and we've lost that. And when sometimes when you watch movies, you can really get a sense of that. We were robbed of so much by the people who bombed those buildings, who knocked down those buildings. And I remember as a child too. It was the same when JFK was killed. I don't know about the movies. I was too young to understand culture that well. But just there have been these degrees of loss of innocence and the loss of a feeling of safety. And it's intentional, and we need to expose the people who are trying to make us insecure and poor and send them out of government, out of positions of control. And here's one specific person who would be nice to get out of control. Land of Oz, the Heiner affair. Carmody says labor covered up child sex. Prime Minister to be charged. This is going on in Australia. It's because it's the same group of people behind all of these evil government leaders. It's significant to us to understand what's going on there, because this same story is repeated over and over. It's repeated in England. It's repeated in the U.S. and every place where the cabal is in control. You see these kinds of issues with the leaders, and of course sometimes the people in positions of power are entrapped and lured into situations where they behave in a way that is inappropriate, and then they're filmed or somehow it's recorded, and that is used to blackmail them throughout their careers. So it's just important, and I'm sure most of you understand how that works, but just for the record, this is going on in Australia now. Here's something that's going on in the U.S. Alert: U.S. Army buying millions of rounds of Russian ammo and popular civilian firearms. Now, it seems fairly clear that they're doing this just to raise the prices and set these weapons and this ammunition out of the reach of the average American. And, just as a reminder that they're coming at us from all sides. And this is a little more in-depth look. Mega companies and deceptive corporations, think tank with Abby Martin. And I have not watched this video yet. I'm sure it's very good. Abby Martin talks to BTS producer Manuel Rapallo about the lawsuit against Pepsi's Naked brand over false labeling, and then goes over some of the most deceitful corporations in the world right now. I think, the shorter list would probably be the corporations that aren't deceptive. But this is some of the most deceitful corporations. So if we can be aware of that and boycott them, and wherever all their tentacles are. Somebody was just telling me some product that I have purchased a lot that's organic and it seems wholesome is actually made by Kraft, and I'm crossing it off my grocery list just knowing that. When we realize sometimes what mega corporations are behind some of the brands that even seem to be good, organic, and seem to be earth friendly, whatever. When you know the agenda of the corporation, and it's probably wise, if you're so inclined, to stop doing business with them. I mean, that's vote with your feet, vote with your dollars. That's one of the most basic and simplest ways that we can express our desires for the world and for our country. Small Utah ISP firm stands up to surveillance state as corporations cower. And speaking of voting with your dollars, if you can find a little local ISP that is going to protect your privacy, how great would that be? I mean, of course, you probably would spend more than what you spend for Comcast, AT&T, whatever. But what you're getting in exchange is probably much better personal service and somebody who is, willing to go to bat for you. I think that's great. I'm glad to hear this. There are alternatives. We think sometimes that we have to go into the big funnel, but as the more we find alternatives, the more we will be voting with our dollars and being able to express to the large corporations we're not going to support the way you do business. And here's some pleasant news in light of what Congress did to us the other day. There were two very significant ways in which Congress basically just threw us over the other day. But here, Congressman Holt pushes to abolish Patriot Act. So there are people in Congress who do care about the Constitution and who are concerned about the concerns the American public have, that we are losing our liberties. And the good news that I will close with is this article, The Rebirth of the Republic and the Rise of the Meek. Historic progress toward freedom made in the last 6 weeks alone. Return of the U.S. to the gold standard close at hand. A world of transparency and disclosure rapidly emerging. So we have this strange paradox right now, this balance between this kind of information coming out and the kind of information on InfoWars of how much they are applying, the cabal is applying pressure to the vice and trying to clamp down on us. And I do believe that is because they are desperate, and I believe they are desperate because of these kind of truths, this kind of progress that liberty is making among the people of the United States of America, and push to restore our republic. So with that, here's hoping that you have a great weekend. The tour of the day is a presentation of She Who Will Walk in the Dark Productions, and we thank you for participating in today's tour. The dawn is coming. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Hoping that you will love one another, take some time to watch a sunset or pick some flowers, smell some flowers, go for a walk. Take care of yourselves and one another, and insist on liberty.